Hello, my name is Andrew Shelton, and I will be defending the Aphis glycinus, which is more commonly referred to as the soybean aphid.
Hello, my name is Trey Watson, and I will be defending the Melophanes sakari, which is more commonly referred to as the sugarcane aphid. We are here to debate the following. Which species causes greater damage/losses in agriculture, the soybean aphid or the sugarcane aphid?
Soybean aphids were first discovered in Asia, where the soybean plant was first domesticated. The Aphis glycinus was introduced to North America in the northern United States and southern Canadian provinces. The first documented case of the soybean aphid in North America was in Wisconsin in the year 2000. It only took 4 short years for the small pest to make its mark in 22 states and 3 provinces. The soybean aphids are very small, yellow or light green insects that develop wings as they mature over time. The wingless aphids, or nymphs, are pear-shaped. The distinctive marking of an adult soybean aphid is a set of dark cornicles, a small pair of upward-pointing tubes on the dorsal side of the insect. The primary source of food for Aphis glycinus is, of course, soybean phloem, which they suck out with their penetrative mouths. Soybean aphids are so destructive primarily because of their ability to reproduce and grow their population with very little effort. Soybean aphid population sizes are determined by ecological factors such as climate, but also population sizes are determined by nutritional value of the host plant. Aphis glycinus thrive off of phloem with high nitrogen concentration. This usually means that populations explode when growing conditions are good for the soybean plant. This is a recipe for disaster. In favorable conditions, soybean aphid populations can double in size within 2 short days. As soybean crops become successful for farmers across the Midwest, they must become even more diligent to protect against the soybean aphid. Contrary to what the common name might suggest, the soybean aphid does not primarily feed on soybean, only for a certain time of year. Its primary host is the buckthorn, and it spends most of the winter on the buckthorn. While destruction that the soybean aphid can do varies according to different colony sizes and field conditions, it is not uncommon to lose 10 to 15% of your crop yields from the pest. These are not just numbers we're talking about here. These soybean crops are a farmer's livelihood, and 10 to 15% less of a yield could significantly damage his or her ability to make advances in their industry.
Well, the sugarcane aphid is a very small white insect which feeds on its target plant, sorghum. Sugarcane aphids infest sorghum crops by crawling onto the underside of the leaves of the plant stalk and use their piercing mouthparts to puncture the leaves, sucking out the liquid within, effectively stealing nutrients from the sorghum plant and killing it. But that's not the end of the problems. A byproduct of the sugarcane aphid's activity is mold and honeydew. The mold continues to damage the crops even without the sugarcane aphid's presence, and the honeydew is a substance which becomes hard and sticky, which disrupts the actual process of harvesting the sorghum by causing significant damage to the combines used to harvest the crop when the honeydew gets caught and stuck within the machine trying to process it. What makes the sugarcane aphid particularly deadly, however, is its ability to reproduce rapidly. All sugarcane aphids are females and are born pregnant. The nymphs only take, on average, 5 days to mature into adults, which give birth to an average of 1 to 3 aphids a day. This leads to an exponential growth in the population in just a few quick generations. This means it is normal for a population greater than 1,000 aphids to be present on the underside of just one leaf in an entire crop. The combinations of damage and exponential reproduction means that sugarcane aphids can effectively wipe out crop yields, wreaking havoc for farmers trying to harvest sorghum. Aside from the physical impact of dead crops, the resulting economic impact of lower yields of sorghum are hefty. Sugarcane aphids make it more expensive for farmers to properly grow and harvest sorghum by forcing them to purchase and administer pesticides, and by causing physical damage to very expensive machinery and equipment. The combination of a higher cost to produce and the lower grains yielded due to crop destruction means that farmers, the local economy, and foreign markets are all hit hard by the damage of sugarcane aphids.
So very much like the sugarcane aphid, the soybean aphid has the ability to reproduce at alarmingly rapid rates, specifically because of the female's ability to clone herself in an asexual way, much like what you said about the sugarcane aphid. What makes the soybean aphid unique is its ability to move host at different points in the season so it can survive winter and make the most out of the soybean growing season. The uniqueness of the soybean aphid is that it does not spend the entire year on just the soybean plant, its secondary host. The soybean aphid not only prevents the plant from photosynthesizing by damaging its physical structure, but the aphid also acts as a vector for diseases that could poison the soybean plant.
As Andrew has mentioned, the soybean aphid may have similar abilities to the sugarcane aphid in that each reproduce rapidly. However, his point about the soybean aphid having the unique ability to move hosts and survive the winter is not necessarily so unique. The sugarcane aphids also have the ability to move hosts. Adult sugarcane aphids have wings which allow them to travel and populate vast new fields. In addition, sugarcane aphids also have the ability to survive the winter by moving to fields of Johnson grass, which is a plant which stays green throughout the winter. On top of that, the honeydew produced by the sugarcane aphids block the sunlight from being absorbed by the leaves and plants, thereby disrupting photosynthesis as well. And, as previously mentioned, sugarcane aphids infestations bring with them sooty mold, which is an additional disruption to plant growth. It seems that the unique traits of the soybean aphid are in fact not so unique.
Trey, it seems that our aphids may be best friends. They make honeydew, effectively blocking the process of photosynthesis and gas exchange. They take winter vacations to survive and keep their families fed. Our aphid species are first cousins. Where we start to diverge is the sheer size of crops that are being destroyed because of our aphid friends. In 2017, the United States Department of Agriculture reported about 89,522,000 acres of soybean harvested. The same source documented that all the sugarcane harvested in the U.S., and this is both seed and sugar we're talking about, in the year 2017 only amounted to 904,100 acres. If the damage that soybean aphid colonies were capable of doing was not mitigated by pesticides, millions of dollars in crops would be destroyed. And those huge numbers only account for the past year in the United States. These statistics do not even begin to encompass the damage that could be done in Asian countries with similar or larger soybean crop yields. The damage could be truly devastating. Aphis glycinus was lucrative when it chose soybean as its secondary host.
Indeed. It appears that our respective species of aphids are in fact very similar in physical attributes and abilities. You have raised a very interesting point about the volume of soybean harvested being greater, therefore allowing the soybean aphid to potentially cause more economic damage. This is a valid point, but I would challenge it by mentioning that if soybean crops were to fail, there would be economic ramifications all around the globe, but most countries who produce soybeans, like the US and Asian countries such as China, have some of the largest, most diverse economies in the world. This means that while money would certainly be lost, most countries with significant soybean production would nevertheless be able to withstand the hardship because their economies encompass so many different industries such as financial services or building technology. If sorghum crops, which are sugarcane aphids' favorite plants to attack, were to fail, however, the results could be quite different due to the location where sorghum is cultivated in large quantities. Many countries which produce sorghum are located in Africa and do not have large, diverse economies. Because of this, if sorghum crops fall victim to sugarcane aphids, the consequences for those who are affected are a much larger proportion of the economies, such as those found in Africa. many of which already are not as stable and could be disrupted, which could lead to economic hardship, livestock feed shortage, and therefore food shortages, making a sorghum shortage a more serious problem.
The soybean aphid, when not monitored or controlled, can be devastating to huge portions of agriculture, not only in North America, but also in large portions of Asia. The soybean aphid is dangerous for numerous reasons. Its capability to asexually reproduce, block photosynthesis, and transmit viruses makes it a deadly threat. The soybean industry generates billions of dollars in revenue every year globally, and the impact that it would make on small farmers would ruin lives. In addition to all of these factors, Aphis glycinus attracts predators that become household pests to people living in the area of soybean farms. Soybean aphids affect more than just agriculture. They affect real lives of the farmers and communities that rely on soybean production.
It is clear to see that the sugarcane aphid causes tremendous damage to agriculture, specifically to sorghum plants. The combination of mold, honeydew, and the damage caused by the sugarcane aphid itself is quite literally a deadly combination for crops. When crops fail, other markets which depend on those crops are hit hard as well. One such example is the reliance which companies who produce the food for livestock depend upon sorghum in order to produce a high-quality, cost-efficient product. Sorghum is a key ingredient in many of the feeds which are fed to livestock everywhere. A shortage of sorghum could potentially raise the price of feed, and believe it or not, the prices of feed can affect everyone. When the cost of feed rises, livestock owners must raise the prices of their products, such as milk, eggs, beef, and chicken. These are things that affect everyone. This is just one of the numerous examples of how the sugarcane aphid and the destruction it causes can disrupt human lifestyle everywhere.